Corporate Governance Platform, a program from the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, is now at your doorstep.
By the way, what is corporate governance and what are its key pillars?
Will there be any conflict of interest if a person combines the roles of a chairman and a chief executive officer in a corporate organization?
What can Nigeria do to gain international recognition in the context of the application of corporate governance?
These and many more questions will be answered on
Corporate Governance Platform, a program designed to inform and educate our numerous viewers on the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities.
Join the Corporate Governance Platform crew every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. on MITV, your talent station, via DSTV 255 and UHF 43.
Corporate Governance Platform, your strategy for the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities. Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
Many thanks for joining us on Corporate Governance Platform, proudly brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. I am your handcomer, Tunde Odeyemi. And in today's episode, we are going to be looking at corporate governance as an engine of national growth and development. And I have with me here in the studio, Mr. OLUGBENGA FABILOLA, FCIS, to do justice to this particular topic. Mr. FABILOLA is a legal practitioner of about 3.5 decade experience. He is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, as well as member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, Nigerian Institute of Management, and Society for Corporate Governance, Nigeria. Mr. FABILOLA cut his teeth as a seasoned manager in Nigerian Breweries PLC, and the wealth of experience and management capabilities acquired in that foremost blue chip company have placed him in good stead in life. He is currently the senior partner of the law firm of Ayodele, OLUGBENGA & Co., a position he has occupied since September 1993 after his managerial job as the pioneer legal manager in Nigerian Breweries PLC. He is a director of some private companies, and he alternates as chairman of board of directors of most of the companies who are big players in their respective industries in the Nigerian economy. Mr. OLUGBENGA FABILOLA, you are welcome to to Corporate Governance Platform.
My pleasure. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you for finding time to join us on today's program.
Always my pleasure.
Okay, we are going to be talking about corporate governance generally, and we're going to look at it from the perspective of its contribution to national growth and development. I would like to start this conversation by asking you, what does the term corporate governance really mean?
Well, I will just put it graphically so that one can be better understood. You have a natural person, and now there's another person that is not natural.
Okay.
And he doesn't have the arm, the leg, the nose, whatever that a natural person has. Is an artificial person. This person needs to be protected. It needs to be guided. Otherwise, it will be pounced upon and demolished.
Wow.
So that is what exactly corporate governance does for that artificial person, to make sure that that person survives, and that if there is any infraction on the rights or capabilities of that artificial person, that will be actually sanctioned appropriately.
Wow, wow. I like this illustration. Well, anyway, can you name and explain some major principles of corporate governance that are globally recognized?
Well, you have the board. You have the board and the other officers of an institution that is guided by corporate governance. The board that is why it is said that corporate governance is about directing and controlling the company. So the board of directors and its officers are the representatives. They are the parties that actually ensure that corporate governance, or that a company that has a corporate personality is actually functions well, because without it, the company will just be a mere shell. So the board is there to direct, to control the activities of the company. And another officer that is recognized under the corporate governance principle is a secretary. The secretary is seen as someone who ensures that the company, on behalf of the board, on behalf of the company, complies with all related business legislation, so that the company is well run and is not mismanaged. So we have other principles. We have sustainability, you have transparency, you have accountability. All these things are spelled out, for instance, under the Nigerian Corporate Governance Code 2018.
Okay, you actually mentioned sustainability. I would like to take you up on that a little. Now, I would like to ask, what is the relationship between adherence to principles of corporate governance and corporate profitability and sustainability?
Well, without sustainability and ensuring that you adhere to those principles, I can tell you that one way the company can go is just downward, and that will not be the interest of anybody. But when this issue, sustainability issue, for instance, is well adhered to and kept and maintained by the company, then you can be sure that the company will move up, it will grow, and in a way that will add to the growth of the nation. The GDP will be involved, will be positively affected, because they are complying and adhering to sustainability issues that will aid and help the performance or the growth of the industry, of the company.
Okay, what you are saying in essence is that when corporate governance is practiced, then profitability and sustainability of that company is certain or enhanced.
Yeah, it's a concomitant of running or sustainability. It's a concomitant, that is profitability and growth. It goes with it. When you have a company that is well run, then you can be sure that there will be growth and there will be profitability for that institution.
Okay, let us go to some of these companies that actually failed. Can you name some examples of corporate failures that have been globally recognized as notable corporate governance scandals?
Yes, I think the most prominent one, notorious indeed, is the Enron case in the United States. You have the Vivendi in France. You have the Siemens in Germany. You have the Swiss Air. These are very notable examples of companies that failed as a result of non-adherence to corporate governance issues.
Wow, wow. Okay, by and large, can you now identify the notable corporate governance principles that have been flouted in the governance scandals? You mentioned some companies. What are the notable corporate governance principles they flout?
Well, the board was, the board of those companies were obviously very weak. They were obviously very weak, and you talk of the assurance of the business, ensuring that the internal controls and the external audits are well done. But where these are not done, what can happen is that the company will just go down, just like any other institution that is not well run. So you need accountability, you need probity, you need transparency for all this to really to make the company to grow. And it is very, very essential that they are actually nurtured, not just put them there just for structure's sake, but then you nurture them and ensure that the companies grow, do well.
Okay, may I ask, you have mentioned so many principles of corporate governance and you emphasize on the board. Does it mean that it's the board of directors only that should be the custodian of corporate governance, that should be the ones that will direct the principles of corporate governance that will ensure profitability and sustainability for the companies?
Not necessarily, but the board is the head.
Okay.
I mean, it is commonly said that when the head is rotten, you say, what else do you expect from the body?
Okay.
If you have a board that is effective, a board that actually knows its onions, a board that has been carefully chosen, you can be sure that it will go down the ladder, get management and other officers that will really aid and help the board in achieving the goals of the company. Because without the management and other officials of the company, there's nothing much the board can do. So they ensure that they select individuals as the management team, officials, who will assist in ensuring that the company is well run and administered.
So the board, as the head, has a major responsibility.
Very, very major.
Okay, it's often said that, you know, companies that are run very well, they do very well, and they contribute to the growth and development of the nation. Right. My question now is that what will you ascribe as the major reasons for corporate failures?
For corporate failures, simply non-adherence to corporate governance issues. Because in life, there are principles. Okay. To succeed in life, you need principles. If you don't adhere to principles, what will happen is that you will not do well. It is a basic fact of life. I mean, a student should read, that's principle.
Okay.
He should ensure that he attends classes. And if he fails to do all this, I mean, there's no way he can do well in the exams. So likewise, a company that is given to nonchalance as far as corporate governance issues are concerned will not do well. I mean, you don't hold meetings of the board, meetings of the company, meetings of committee, and other meetings that will really aid the growth of the business, and you expect to make a profit. Of course, it's not a la carte that is just served like that. So you have to ensure that you keep to the principles of corporate governance issues. And when you do that, profitability and growth will definitely come into play.
Okay, in essence, you are saying that corporate governance cut across every other thing. For instance, I know that misappropriation, mismanagement of funds, mismanagement of resources can also lead to failure of organizations.
Yes.
Now, what you are saying in essence that all this revolves around sound corporate governance principles.
Exactly. That's what happens. When you have sound corporate governance principles, you will actually make profit. Let me just make this abundantly clear that the issue of corporate personality is the whole essence of corporate governance.
Okay.
Yes, the whole issue of corporate personality. Because why not for the fact that you are talking of an established or an institution that is a juristic person just like that, not a natural person like you and I that we have limbs, we have hands, we have everything we can see, then the framers of that particular idea came to the conclusion that, look, you need to put certain things in place because this person does not have the eye, it does not have the nose, it does not have the arm, it does not have the limb to really protect itself. Now you need someone, or you need certain things to ensure that it is well run, because if it is not so, the business may not really function well. For instance, I mean, if there are no corporate governance, I mean, if there are no principles, somebody can just come in and say, look, this is my company, I own 90% of the shares in the company, I want to do whatever I like, but the law will say no. That juristic person you are looking at has an existence of his own, has a life of his own. It can sue and be sued. And there are issues that have to be followed. So you cannot just pass on it and just treat it anyhow. So this is why it is important that the issues of corporate governance are taken seriously and adhered to.
The issues of corporate governance are taken seriously and adhered to. At this point, we'd like to go over a very short break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Mr. OLUGBENGA FABILOLA. Please don't go away.
Corporate Governance Platform, a program from the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, is now at your doorstep.
By the way, what is corporate governance and what are its key pillars?
Will there be any conflict of interest if a person combines the roles of a chairman and a chief executive officer in a corporate organization?
What can Nigeria do to gain international recognition in the context of the application of corporate governance?
These and many more questions will be answered on
Corporate Governance Platform, a program designed to inform and educate our numerous viewers on the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities.
Join the Corporate Governance Platform coup every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. on MITV, your talent station via DSTV 255 and UHF 43.
Corporate Governance Platform, your strategy for the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities. Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
You are welcome back. It's the Corporate Governance Platform, proudly brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. And I've been discussing with Mr. OLUGBENGA FABILOLA on corporate governance as an engine of national growth, national development and growth. Yeah, Mr. FABILOLA, you have mentioned a lot of things about corporate governance being the sustenance of the company. I would like to ask, will you say that governance principles are as relevant in the public sector as they are in the private sector? We are moving a bit to the public sector now. Are they as relevant in the public sector as we have it in the private sector?
I will take it further. I would say we're talking of principles of management.
Okay.
And you need management in every sphere of life. In every sphere of life. I mean, look at the functions of management. What are these functions? You understand me? Organizing, controlling, all those functions that we talk about. You need all this both in the private and in the public sector. Okay. If you don't have it in either, there's no way the business can function well. So we cannot say because the eyes, ears, and what have you are on private sector wanting to ensure that they do well because the shareholders are on their neck. They have to ensure that the business is well run. That you may not bother about public sector. Of course, no, because they too have that structure. They have that structure that must be obeyed. If, for instance, the permanent secretary in a particular ministry fails to adhere to the principles of management, of course, I mean, he will not be able to function well. He will not be able to do what he is expected to do as permanent secretary. And what do you have? The ministry will not be able to deliver, and what you can only get is that the public sector is not doing too well, and the economy of the nation is affected. So in both the private and the public sectors, you need the principles of management, and again, let me say, adherence to the corporate governance issues.
Okay, even in the public sector, there must be governance principles that must be adhered to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, how can a nation profit from having most of our companies and organizations adhere to principles of corporate governance? How can a nation, Nigeria for instance, how can we, have our companies in this country adhere to the principles of corporate governance?
Yeah, I think what we have done is the Corporate Governance Code 2018 that has been enacted for companies to adhere to. That is a major instrument that both public and private sectors need to ensure that they do well. Let me just express this personal opinion on that. I would rather see code as moral obligation. To give it the force of the law, I think is taking it too far. Again, that brings some conflict between the extant laws and these codes themselves. Like I said, it's a personal view that I hold, and I express it from time to time wherever, because you already have the legal issues taken care of by the laws. Then you also have what I would call the assurance issues taken care of by auditing, both external and internal. These are enough. And if there's any infraction on this, you expect that the law will take its course and deal with the parties concerned. But the code is just to morally help the practitioners to ensure that they do things well. I mean, and this is why I expect that the industries should be allowed to have their own industry code, not necessarily a centralized one and group everybody in the same place where they do not belong. I mean, when they do not belong to the same industry.
Okay, let me come in. Companies do fail.
Yeah.
While I respect your personal views that it should be moral is a moral obligations, yeah, which means it should be voluntary, right?
Not necessarily. No. Let me put it this way. Not necessarily voluntary.
Okay.
Not voluntary. It's a very thin line of distinction. You know, we have come together.
Okay.
As an industry, that this will bind us. Yeah. This is the way we will do things. And what will happen is that, because what they will be saying, there is nothing unlawful, I mean, there's nothing illegal in the thing in question. But they are just saying, look, as an institution, as an industry, we'll be bound by these codes, and we'll work with it. You understand me?
Okay.
We'll work with it. So, if there's anything that they do that is against the law should actually take its course. It's not necessarily because it is a governance code that the law is taking, we expect the law to take its course, but because an extant law has been infringed upon, and it has to be punished. So, I mean, for some time, you see a situation where, I mean, you see companies have had these codes for so many years, and they keep to it. Code for directors. Directors, as a director, you must not have conflict of interest. You must not do business with the company. You must not be found in such and such an embarrassing situation. These are things that companies have been doing from time, and I believe that is the way. But for you now to codify it, make it have the force of law, I think is rather.
That is where you have issues with.
Yes, I mean it's rather.
Okay, maybe when you take this question, you'll be able to reflect on that as well.
Yeah.
What are the implications if a country is reputed for having both private and public sectors with scanty regards for corporate governance principles? What are the implications for the country?
The implication is that you become a pariah state. I mean, to be avoided. People will not want to do business with it. Of course, the issue of foreign fund will not get into the country, and it should be avoided like a plague. That is what will happen.
Okay, you mentioned the foreign direct investment. Now, let me pick a question on that. What's the relationship between countries' adherence to corporate governance and attraction of foreign investment into the country? Is there an implication? Is there any relationship?
Of course. When corporate governance principles are adhered to, and the company is noted for ensuring that corporate governance issues are adhered to, I mean, foreign companies will come in, and by that bring in foreign direct investment into the company, and the company will grow. There will be increased GDP for that particular company.
Okay,
country.
I know you have your personal opinion on the force of law for the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, but may I ask, will you describe the provisions of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018 as meeting with the best global best practices?
I would say, okay, yes, in a way, but I still have issues with having
the force of law.
Yes, having to have force of law. I think it should have been morally obligatory on the industry to comply with such things. Because there's bound to be conflict. For instance, you have CAMA. CAMA has sanctions for certain infringement of certain acts. And you also have the code. I mean, this conflict will arise. How do you resolve that?
Okay. Let me quickly take this last question because of time, and I want you to answer it in less than 60 seconds. What advice do you have for companies and organizations as regards to adherence to Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018? I still take you back to the Code of Corporate Governance. What advice do you have for organizations, both private and public?
I would say, since it's an enactment of the nation.
Yes.
I mean, you have no choice. Yes, you can express your personal views, but you have no choice. You just have to go by it. You adhere to it. I mean, like I told you, like I mentioned earlier, the issue of chairman and managing director of companies. I mean, the position of the governance code that cannot be in one person. I don't think it is right. I don't think it is right, because we have had it in the past, and the businesses flourished under those people. Okay. I mean, you talk of the Abibis of this world, talk of Mola Yolis of this world, talk of Uhiweres of this world. These were chairman, managing director, and their businesses, the businesses under them flourished, and there was no abuse of office in any of them.
Thank you very much, Mr. OLUGBENGA FABILOLA, FCIS, for sharing your thoughts on corporate governance as an engine of national growth and development. This is where we wrap it up and end this particular episode. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me.
Please do join us again next week when we come with another topic on corporate governance platform. I remain Tunde Odeyemi. Bye for now.
Corporate Governance Platform, a program from the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, is now at your doorstep.
By the way, what is corporate governance and what are its key pillars?
Will there be any conflict of interest if a person combines the roles of a chairman and a chief executive officer in a corporate organization?
What can Nigeria do to gain international recognition in the context of the application of corporate governance?
These and many more questions will be answered on
Corporate Governance Platform, a program designed to inform and educate our numerous viewers on the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities.
Join the Corporate Governance Platform crew every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. on MITV, your talent station, via DSTV 255 and UHF 43.
Corporate Governance Platform, your strategy for the adoption of corporate governance best practices by corporate entities. Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.